Is it better to rent or to buy? Well, let's find out. So this news article here shows us the average American spends about $3.3 million over their entire lifetime. And you look at the breakdown here, you got about 1.5 million of that for housing. So out of all the money you make over your entire lifetime, about half of that can go towards your housing expenses, and that would be considered average. Now keep in mind, this is a study they conducted years ago, so these are the expenses people were paying in decades past. This does not take into account future price increases. So if rent prices go up, or if the price of housing goes up, that would not be included in this. This is just, at this moment in time, this is what people are paying. So let's go ahead and put some more numbers out there and see if we can get to the bottom of this. This study here was for people who are 22 to 35 years old, spent a third of $1 million on housing. So most that's on rent, and they got also some utilities and moving expenses. So here, this is the important number. $25,620 per year is the average housing expense for the entire year for a renter. Okay, let's go ahead and get the calculator out here. $25,620. And let's say instead of buying a house at 35 like this study presumes you would, let's say you're a lifetime renter. You rent from, say, age 20 to age 60. You're a renter for 60 years. So let's multiply that times 60, and we get 1.5 million, which is almost exactly what we have here. So if you're a renter for 60 years, based on the current cost of living, that would be about $1.5 million, which lines up with this study here, about $1.5 million for housing over your entire lifespan. And that way you spend money putting a roof over your head, and when you die, the property reverts back to whoever the owner was, and they find someone else to rent it. Okay, so that's how much it would cost you for the renting. What about buying, though? Well, here, this news article shows buying is about $45,400 per year, because the mortgage is about as much as the rent. They're both roughly $2,000 a month. But you have home repairs, you have a lot of property taxes, insurance, HOA fees, that kind of thing. And so take that into account, owning a home on its face is quite a bit more expensive because the price of housing is so much higher. So let's do some math here. $45,400. And again, let's say you were a homeowner from 35 to 80. So that's 45 years of owning a home, because again, most people rent throughout their 20s and 30s. It's about their mid-30s they actually become a homeowner. So if you were renting before then, that's about $2 million you spent on housing expenses. Plus, keep in mind the $333,000 of renting as well, because this here said if you're at 35, you spend a third of $1 million on rent, and then if you buy a house after that, so that's about $2.37 million you would spend on first renting for about 15 years and then owning a house after that. Okay, so that is a bit more than this. However, consider this. So yes, by owning a house over the course of a lifespan, it is hundreds of thousands of dollars more expensive. In this case, about $800,000 more expensive than renting, based on the current math. But you also own a house which you can sell. So let's say the house sells for $800,000. Well, now you're back down to $1.5 million, which would again put you about $1.5 million for your total housing-related expenses. So renting and buying are actually fairly similar in terms of their total lifetime expense. It largely depends on where you live. If you live in a place which has very overpriced homes, like all the houses are $1 million, you're better off renting there. But if you can find a place with affordable real estate, let's say you could buy a house for only $100,000, well then it would be much cheaper to buy. Like this house behind me here, I purchased it for only $100,000. It was a cash transaction. There was no mortgage involved. I simply saved up the money and paid $100,000 for a house. So let's go ahead and look at some other houses here. This is for the state of Florida where I live, and I filtered for houses between $1 and $100,000, and any bed, any bathroom, any for home type houses, townhomes, multifamilies. I'm not looking for condos, co-ops, empty lots, apartments manufactured. I'm just looking for like actual houses. And for the criteria here, no HOA fee, so that will obviously decrease the total number of listings. But I understand people don't like HOAs. And you look at things like at least 500 square feet or bigger, lot size 1,000 square feet, no 55 communities. So I'm actually excluding quite a few properties. So if you are someone in the 55 plus community, you might have some more options here. Florida has a bunch of those houses. So here, and I have it organized priced high to low. So these are giving me the houses at about $100,000 total. Because I looked at the bottom of the list, most of them needed full renovations. But you look down at these houses, you realize, some of these like this one here are overall, a pretty good option. So this house here is only $100,000 asking price in Jacksonville, Florida. And, you look at the photos. And you use the outside of the house here, you'll notice it does have bars in the windows. So there might be some crime to be concerned with. But it's a small house, a small lot. The inside of the house, it's in decent shape. Again, the flooring's decent shape, the wall's decent shape. The kitchen's in good shape. This house is what I call move-in ready, meaning you don't have to do any renovations. You can just buy it and move in. And so if you're looking to buy a house for $100,000, even if you have to do some repairs over the years, it's still way cheaper than renting. You could have a total lifetime expense of far less than $1 million for housing if you buy yourself a house for $100,000. And there's quite a few of them out there. Like you saw here on the webpage for Zillow, when I searched for the whole state of Florida, I received 407 search results, mind you, excluding houses with HOAs, excluding houses in 55 plus communities, excluding the mobile manufactured houses because usually you have to pay a monthly rent for the land under the house. But even then, I've seen some manufactured houses where you don't rent the land. You own the land and you own the modular manufactured house on top of it. I've seen that too. So there's actually more than 407 options out there. Now, mind you, the bottom end of the price range, those houses usually need a full rehabilitation, a full remodel, because they do come in pretty bad shape. But around $100,000, there are houses for sale. This is just in Florida. There's 50 other states out there, and of course, there's other countries as well if you're looking to move internationally. So you realize if you can get yourself a house, kind of like one of these houses, for about $100,000, maybe some need a little bit of work on them, maybe some don't. But you see how many houses there are for $100,000, and this is just in the state of Florida. And so you realize if you get yourself a very small, affordable house, that is overall the best option for housing. That's what I've done, and that's what I promote here at the Financial Optimist, is finding a small, affordable house, paying cash for it, not having a mortgage, living completely debt-free your entire life, because that way you're not going to be spending $1.5 million on housing. You're only going to spend maybe $0.5 million, $100,000 on the house, and then over the years you gradually fix up, maybe do a renovation or two here or there over the years. Like, housing doesn't have to be super expensive. Now, granted, this does mean you'll have to avoid the big cities and move to some of the smaller cities. Maybe, or on some of the outskirts of the big cities. You can find better real estate deals in a smaller town. Yes, you'll get an older place. Yes, it may need a little bit of work on it. Yes, it may be a smaller place. It may not have all the greatest luxuries, but it is possible to make housing affordable. So if that is your strategy to find houses like this, then I would say buying is absolutely by far the best option. But if you're someone looking to get the average house price of, say, $500,000, it's much more expensive. And keep in mind, with a mortgage, you could easily double the cost of the house over 30 years. So a $500,000 mortgage could end up being more than $1 million you pay back to the bank with all the interest. So at that point, you're better off renting if the housing market's overpriced, but with the right kind of a house, buying becomes a substantially better option. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.